Author Camilla Shamsi suggested that in 2018, the 100-year anniversary of women getting the vote, the UK has a women's-only year of publishing. That is that publishing companies across the whole of the country sign up to a pledge to only publish women for that whole year. This is, in Shamsi's opinion, a much-needed, if radical, act in order to address the gender imbalance which still holds a huge sway within literature. Let's consider Shamsi's call to action, whether it should or could happen. Let's consider the underlying principles. Notably, is there still a gender imbalance in literature, and does positive discrimination solve this? When measuring success in our bookie world, I reckon we have two yardsticks to call upon. The popular, who sells more copies, and the literary, who's thought of more highly and who wins more fancy smanchy awards. With regards to the literary, we can pretty conclusively state that there is definitely still a bias towards male writers and male points of view. In some recent analysis by author Nicola Griffith, who looked at 6 different awards over the past 15 years, it was pretty clear in every single one that there was a strong male favouritism. You were much more likely to win if you were male and wrote from a male point of view. Whether there's a huge imbalance in the popular, in the genders of authors being bought and read, now this I couldn't find any exact studies on. Please do point me to some in the comments down below if you know of some good research. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video. I did some paltry research myself, just looking at the list of the top 50 books sold in the UK as listed in the bookseller. I made a note every week looking at the number of male authors there were and comparing it to the number of female authors there were. And this was pretty balanced. So maybe sexism is more in the literary spheres than the mass market ones. Does a year of women's-only publishing concentrate on the literary rather than the popular? Let's go back to our initial question and ask whether positive discrimination would help with either of those fields. Positive discrimination is the act of giving advantage to a group that was previously or is otherwise still marginalised within a society. Having a year in which only those who identify as female are able to publish their writing, that would definitely fall under this banner. The problem with positive discrimination is it's often misunderstood by huge swathes of society. On the surface, it can definitely seem like it's going in the exact opposite way of bringing about equality. You're just favouring one group over another. You're fighting fire with fire. You're angry at your oppression and just trying to lash out at your current or previous oppressors. I'd say the misunderstanding of it is perhaps partially where a lot of the dismissal of feminism as simply angry, man-hating misandry comes from. On the other end of the spectrum, some people say it is furthering the distinction between binary genders when we should be looking towards a genderless society. Finally, there's the argument that it's still actually treating women's writing as lesser. That these women couldn't win compared to men based purely on their own merit. Shamsi's suggestion for positive discrimination to combat the secondary position of women in the world of literature isn't anything new at all. For years we've had things like the Bailey's Awards, which honour the best female writer of the year. Outside of literature and gender, there are things like the MOBO Awards, the Music of Black Origin Awards. Shamsi's Year of Female Publishing is but a suggested extension on positive discrimination we already have in place. So let's combat those who argue against positive discrimination. What advantages would a year of women's-only publishing serve? Why do we already have things like the Bailey's Award in place? Couldn't at least in literary awards gender be obliterated? Books could be judged under anonymous numbers. They could have covers that might hint at the author's gender completely removed. If the judges didn't know the gender of each author they were judging, surely it would be fair then. Well, the proponents of positive discrimination would argue no. They would argue that the influence of a person's gender does not stop at a name or a cover, that it permeates the very writing itself. That women write in a different way to men and prioritise different issues, and that these differences are often way too highly complex to point at and say, there it is, that's what's being dismissed unfairly. Too completely ingrained to pull out of the way we talk and live, and in this case, read and write. But I thought that feminism was arguing that women could do anything that men could do, that we're all the same people, that we're not born with different gendered writing abilities. Yes, we're not. But people who live as apparently female and apparently male in our still patriarchal society are often treated in certain ways and have certain expectations of them, and these lead to sociologically constructed gender identities. It leads to living in a certain way and thinking in a certain way and even writing in a certain way. For a great number of people, gender, although sociologically instilled, is still completely inescapable. Within the group we consider female, These traits, this writing style, is considered feminine. And I would argue, looking at the state of literary awards, that that way of writing, feminine writing, is still considered lesser, perhaps unconsciously. A question you can't help in responding to Shamsi, though, is this possible? Really? Here in this highly clickbaity titled article from The Guardian, it is reported on that one teeny tiny publisher has decided to go for it. They will only publish women in 2018. But they publish 12 books a year, and 12 highly curated books a year at that. On a larger scale, though, I'm sorry, this couldn't happen. We live in a capitalist society. If David Walliams or David Mitchell or any of the other Davids want to publish a book in 2018, someone will take them up on it. Someone point me to a publisher turning down millions of pounds of revenue. Let me go back to the question of should it happen, and do I think it should happen? No. I don't think it should. Maybe I'm too influenced by the could. It can't happen, not in a capitalist society. I do very, very much understand the arguments behind it. But I think if we're going to change entrenched views on gendered writing and reading and fiction, I don't think this is the hill to die on. My opinion is that I wholeheartedly support any award that tries to lift up and give a voice to a minority that society arguably has a specific limiting discourse for. But I think these efforts should be made in the positive and not the negative. Not taking an established award and making it women's only, but creating another award that helps celebrate that too and look at what we might be missing. Although, yeah, I know we've done that. But still, we can't take away all of publishing for all but women for a whole year. In 2018, there will be people of all genders trying to fight their own battles, whether that be against whitewashing or Islamophobia or toxic masculinity. We can't deny all causes completely for the sake of one. Yes, make 2018 the year of women's publishing, but do it by getting commissioning editors to look harder and read with awareness of the unconscious biases they may hold. Marketing and publicity managers, throw your money and efforts into books you might be dismissing for the wrong reasons. And think about how you're packaging books. Would you give a book that cover and that blurb if you didn't have preconceived ideas of the author's gender? Or consider that type of story gendered? And readers, read widely and wisely. Consider why you're picking up this book, why you like that kind of story, why this is a classic, but this is just light reading. Maybe look at books you're not against, but you just never really noticed or had time for before. And as you read, consider how a work might be gendered. Consider how that might be affecting your interaction with it. And consider whether those things are worse or lesser, or just different, and maybe needing to be read from a different point of view. Anyway, guys, congratulations if you got all the way to the end. Really looking forward to hearing any and all opinions you might have in the comments. See you there. Bye. Given my own free reign, would probably have just picked Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling for every answer here. But considering apparently that that's not allowed,